Right, how is everybody doing? Right, how is everybody doing? Right. We are here, Gunny Speaks Out podcast today. We're probably going to go about 30 minutes. Going to um, essentially go over some of the highlights from the week. But first of all, I just want to make sure the chat is going in on YouTube. Hang on while I double check that. All right, let's check here. All right. Bear with me one sec while I open up my YouTube. YouTube Studio. There we go. It should be live on YouTube as well. So, all right. All right. So, some of what we're going to talk about today. Let's see. The first one we are going to discuss. Let me go to my notes here. Right. Should be able to see it on the screen here. Is Trump is preparing um, essentially the facility at Guantanamo Bay to take in 30,000 migrants, which in itself only holds 780 total. Bear with me while I switch up my microphones real quick. I want that. I got a better microphone. So you should be able to hear me a lot clearer. All right. All right, that should sound better there. All right. So 30,000 migrants. How are we going to fit 30,000 migrants into a facility that only holds 780? Now, keep in mind, there are um, currently there's a section in Guantanamo Bay that does house undocumented immigrants that are violent in nature in a separate section there, and they've been doing that for quite some time. The issue is the number of undocumented immigrants that Donald Trump wants to place in the facility as it relates to inhumane conditions that already exist there at Guantanamo Bay. Let's see. Hang on one sec. Let me text my wife and make sure she's got me on the screen. Bear with me. This is the first time I ran a live doing the multi-stream. I just want to double check. Can you see me on TikTok and YouTube both? All right. So while we're waiting on my wife to message me back, you can comment in the chat here through, if you're watching on TikTok, which I cannot see TikTok, please head over to Gunny Speaks Out on YouTube in order to comment in the chat there as we're discussing this. And I'm going to give everybody a few minutes to do that. Okay, cool. Uh, can you type hello in the chat, Mrs. Gunny Road Glide, since you're listening, just to double check that the text is working properly. It says at the it says at the bottom of the screen, I'm not signed in. Okay, cool. All right, it's working. And then if I check the multi-stream, all right, cool. Hey, what's going on, Noodle? All right, I got the multi-stream going so I can see YouTube over here. So again, I'm going to give everybody a couple more minutes to migrate over to YouTube is Gunny Speaks Out over there. I can't currently see what's happening on TikTok, but the plan is to get everybody to migrate over to YouTube for the chat. Hey, Sly One, thank you, thank you. And you can continue to gift on the TikTok side if you'd like to. Again, the Dire Wolf. Hey, what's going on? Everybody's migrating over here to YouTube. I'm just trying to make sure I got comms set up so that the people that want to participate. Sylvia, what's going on? So my Cash App and Venmo is the same. If you're over here on the YouTube side of things, my PayPal is actually I've got some issues with my PayPal right now and the username. So if you are on TikTok watching and you're gifting regularly, that's fine. That's great too. Should be a $30 gift goal set up there on that. But my Cash App and Venmo is Gunny Speaks Out on Cash App and Venmo if you want to participate in that way. And I'll read the notification out if you put a message in there to the chat. Okay, back at it. So we're talking about Donald Trump preparing Gitmo, which we in the military refer as Gitmo. Sweet, D Jewel, appreciate you. So if you're wherever in the military, do you remember Gitmo being the hot topic during Iraq and Afghanistan and all the issues that they had over there? Well, currently Donald Trump's preparing to house 30,000 immigrants over there when the facility itself only holds 780. And if you're to ask me, sounds pretty much like it's going to be what I would call a concentration camp as 1930s, 1940s Germany, uh, Warsaw Ghetto type stuff like that. So again, and Sylvia can attest to this, that the main issue is uh, and we have inhumane conditions across the prisons in the United States. They're just significantly worse in Gitmo. Not to mention that it's not as monitored probably as the facilities inside the United States, considering all the illegal activity, the waterboarding, and everything that was going on at Gitmo. So while I agree that we need to find a facility for these violent criminals, I still stand firm on the fact that we don't need to be violating their civil and constitutional rights. That's okay, Cece. Their civil and constitutional rights, just because that they are detained. They in fact do have rights. They are protected, but it's my feeling that the mindset of Tom Homan, who's leading all of this, as well as Donald Trump, that the last thing that's on his list of concerns is going to be how the prisoners are treated. So take a listen.
President Donald Trump on Wednesday ordered the expansion of a migrant detention facility at Guantanamo Bay.
Today, I'm also signing an executive order to instruct the Departments of Defense and Homeland Security to begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay. Most people don't even know about it. We have 30,000 beds in Guantanamo to detain the worst criminal illegal aliens threatening the American people. Some of them are so bad we don't even trust the countries to hold them because we don't want them coming back, so we're going to send them out to Guantanamo. This will double our capacity immediately, right? And that's a tough place to get out of.
The U.S. naval base in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, already houses a migrant facility separate from the high-security U.S. prison for foreign terrorism suspects. It has been used on occasion for decades, including to hold Haitians and Cubans picked up at sea. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel called Trump's plan, quote, an act of brutality. New U.S. border czar Tom Homan said later on Wednesday that the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency would run the expanded facility. He told reporters the center would be used for the, quote, worst of the worst. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said the administration was working with Congress to determine the cost of the project. The detention facility at Guantanamo Bay was set up by George W. Bush to detain foreign militant suspects following the September 11, 2001 attacks on the United States. There are 15 detainees left in the prison. Trump's two Democratic predecessors, Barack Obama and Joe Biden, both sought, albeit unsuccessfully, to shut Guantanamo down. However, Trump has vowed to keep it open. Pro-refugee groups have called for the Guantanamo migrant facility to be closed and for Congress to investigate alleged abuses there.
So again, it's been two presidents have tried to have it shut down to no avail. No surprise there, considering what is going on there, and I guess like the mindset of the Republican Party. And again, I'll say it again. And while I agree that violent criminals do need to be housed, they do deserve the constitutional rights that are afforded to them, whether they're in the United States or they're in Guantanamo Bay. Yeah, I know. So it is crazy. Like I said, so imagine 30,000 people jammed up in a facility that can only house 780. So my guess is the plan is they're just going to do tent cities all around there. And then just think about so the amount of funding that it's going to cost to make that happen as well would probably be in the billions and billions of dollars. And we already know that one of the things that every president runs on, specifically Donald Trump, was how he plans on saving money. And we already know that the cost of these mass deportations, when it comes to flights, utilizing the Military Airlift Command flights, it was running like $80,000, whereas opposed that I think that was 80 something thousand dollars for every 500 as compared to like the 8,000 that it could have been if they were using regular commercial flights. So we're already outspending, uh, starting the serious spending, and we're not even 20 days into office. So again, we've got cost issues, and then more importantly, the inhumane treatment of these prisoners. And we don't, and at this point, we're not even sure if, because historically, I mean, they've already picked up a veteran who was a United States citizen, and we don't even know for sure that all of these immigrants are, in fact, just the violent ones. So at this point, it's hard to really say, but I'm sure more will come out, and more remains to be seen as that progresses. And I'm certain that the human interest groups will get heavily involved with this should all these things come to light. All right, next topic we got here. Okay, and the topics we're talking about right here, when I go live a little bit later, we can discuss these in a little bit more detail, and maybe somebody will bring it up in chat. All right, so on this one, Trump calls for death penalty for migrants who kill U.S. citizens. Let's take a listen here.
Elite squads of ICE, Border Patrol, and federal law enforcement officers to hunt down, arrest, and deport every last illegal alien gang member until there is not a single one left in this country. And if they come back into our country, They will be told it is an automatic 10-year sentence in jail with no possibility of parole. And I'm hereby calling for the death penalty for any migrant that kills an American citizen or a law enforcement officer.
Heck
So,
yeah.
more disturbing information coming straight from Donald Trump's mouth as it relates to the undocumented immigrants. So it is quite apparent, and we knew this for quite some time, that he does not, in fact, like the what I would like to call the brown people. He is, in fact, 100% a racist and a xenophobe among everything else. And that's proof positive right there. Now, I think he's going to have a hard time making like creating some sort of legislation that's going to make that possible, especially on a federal level, um, especially just because of how the federal laws are written right now, and even the state, well, the state laws. And just so we're clear, federal laws for that particular crime have a different set of circumstances. So you can't be charged for unaliving somebody on a federal level unless it involves some other certain criteria. And we can get into that in another life. So on the state level, I still don't think it's going to be possible for them to legislate anything that somebody crossing the border. Let's see. Cece says, "What about January 6 writers?" Yes, exactly. And then they got released, Cece. So exactly. So it just goes to show you what a hypocrite he is as well. But I think he'd be hard pressed to convince anybody on even the MAGA Republicans. I would like to think no Democrats at all, where crossing the border. Uh, and while I'm not a proponent of the death penalty, but the manner in which that he's trying to do this, I don't think that he's going to have very much luck in instituting any kind of legislation that's going to make this feasible that anybody's going to get behind. Uh, especially since, well, we got midterms coming up in less than 2 years, and a lot of that, if that were to get voted on or voted in, um, I would probably guess at least a small majority of people that support these particular congressmen wouldn't get behind that, and they would have a hard time maintaining their positions of power right now, which seems to be their big thing. But again, uh, I always say, you know, where are Republicans going to draw that line and show us that this is enough? Because it seems like every day, you know, either that line gets moved forward or that bar keeps getting raised higher and higher to what that is going to be. So at this point, I don't think that we've gotten there yet. Uh, I remain hopeful, but I guess that just remains to be seen. So he says, so yeah, Direwolf says it so angrily too. Yeah, and that just goes back to his same rhetoric. If you remember, um, prior to the election, you know, he was saying they're poisoning the blood, they're poisoning the blood of America, and you know this and that. Just notice, like it's really dark where I'm sitting right now. I guess I need more lighting over here. Anyway, yeah. So all those things right there just tell me that he's 100% a xenophobe and a racist. Again, the majority of what we're talking about today um, involve. Let's see, I know two of these topics involve. Let's see. Yeah, so two of these topics just involve undocumented immigrants, and we could go like ad nauseum on this all day on everything that Trump is trying to do. But I've got five topics picked for today. So again, I'm just kind of doing a review of some of the hot topics from the past week, and then that will give us something to talk about in TikTok Live, either later today or later in the week. All right. So again, to close it out on the undocumented immigrant side, yeah, it's just disturbing to hear out loud how so many people. Yeah, I know. I guess I never thought as a society that we would be here today. And again, I get people have implicit biases and things of that nature. But I've said this a million times that MAGA, MAGA has never like given a shit about politics ever. Not until Donald Trump has came on the scene and essentially gave them an open platform to be racist, misogynistic, homophobic, transphobic, all that kind of stuff. So, and it's proven time and time again. And if you've sat in any of my lives long enough, you'll know that. Uh, they don't like the trans community, the LGBT community. Um, they're always like they're hating on groups of people that like they rarely have any interaction with. And this really just goes back onto how right-wing media targets these people to say, you know what? Um, these voters are like, well, you know what? Republicans are never going to help my bottom line when it comes to money in my pocket. But they do hate the same people I hate, so that's enough for me to continue to vote for them. And that's their feelings on that. So at this point, they don't even care uh, if the legislation that comes down from the Republican side helps them out financially or not, just because they know they hate the same people as him. And the book I have, let's see, right here. We're getting. I'm going to do a book review on this. A book recommended reading. Uh, White Rural Rage by Tom Schaller and Paul Wadman. Uh, it gets into the specifics, into great detail of why what I just spoke about and why they continue to vote the way that they do and why they always have. Again, a great read. All right, moving on. Moving on to the next topic. Let's see. We've got Trump vows to protect Christians from persecution. Okay, another good one. So if you don't know who Paula White is, I'm gonna play uh, a clip here. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, first of all, so Donald Trump essentially has started the White House Faith Office. Okay, again, and I seem to remember a thing about separation of church and state, but I guess that's not going to be a thing anymore under Trump's presidency. But I think we all saw it coming, especially with um, Nancy Mace and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Uh, they actually both believe that like he was sent by God to essentially save this country. But so Paula White, she was a some sort of a pastor or whatever. But I want you to take a listen to this clip from her. It's just kind of a compilation of things
Trump
here.
would be saying no to God.
We command all satanic pregnancies.
No to President Trump would be saying no to God.
We command all satanic pregnancies to miscarry right now.
It is not found in Antifa, and it is not found in Black Lives Matter, all which are anti-Christ. I declare that President Trump will overcome every strategy from hell and every strategy of the enemy.
And any tongue that rises against him will be condemned according to the word of God.
It's not okay to have an abortion. It's not okay to marry the same sex. And strike 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 until you have victory.
It is God that raises up a king. It is God that sets one down. And so when you fight against the plan of God, you're fighting against the hand of God. The Supreme Court justice says if we get two more, come on, if we get two more. And right now, I know right now, we are scaring the literal hell out of demonic spirits by me saying this right now, because if we get two more, we will be able to overturn demonic laws and decrees.
Never been hatred like this.
I've never
to
seen
a president.
it. Never in my life. Principalities cannot control this man because he surrounds himself with Christians. He is a Christian.
Have you ever asked God for forgiveness? That's a tough question. I'm not sure I have. I don't bring God into that picture.
What? Again, more insanity uh, from Donald Trump and what he's planning on doing. And there's more videos out there of Paula White and what she's all about. But I think that, like, you know, a 60-second video, specifically that one like 10-second burst, was enough to tell you that that Donald Trump, Donald Trump is off his freaking rocker, and she definitely is. Yeah. Hey, D Jewel, if you let me see if I can do it here. I should be able to do it right in the chat. Hang on one sec. Let's see. Copy, 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 copy. Let's see if I can drop it in the chat right here. It's not letting me put it in the chat. Let me do it over here. Let's try this. Trying to put it in the multi-stream. Control P. Okay, it's not letting me drop it in there. Hang on one sec. Um, your best bet is to, yeah, your best bet would be to go into my D Jewel. Uh, I would get Discord. Yeah, get Discord, download Discord, create a profile on there, and add me. Gunny Speaks Out, and I'll put you in the Discord because I have all these everything that I'm talking about today. It's all in the link in my Discord. D Jewel. Um, but I'll be posting some highlights. But I just Googled Paula White clips, and it played this. But the YouTube clip is the controversy around Paula White Kane. That's how it reads on this YouTube, and it looks like it came from Now This Impact. Was the channel that it came from. All right. So yeah, no more separation of church and state. How shocking. Let's see. So we probably all heard, or maybe not, because that's why you're here, that uh, a lot of judges are blocking um, Elon Musk's access to the treasury and things like that, right? Good for us, 100% good for us. The judges are working for us. Believe it or not, um, okay, cool. Yeah, thank you, Darrell. D. Jewel do the same thing. So several judges have worked on our side to block Elon Musk from getting full access. Apparently, he has like only read-only access. Why he's getting any access is beyond me, but he is. So there we are. There was actually one judge that uh, said he was out of Georgia that did not block. Uh, Elon Musk from Access, and now did a little bit of a deep dive on this guy. And interestingly enough, he's not a Trumper or whatever. He just said there was just not quite enough information there that I think requires me to block Elon Musk from gaining access to all the United States' information regarding, Social Security and all that kind of stuff. Yes, Cece has it right. So maybe that was the case. Again, he was the only judge out of I don't know. There's like 20, 30, I think. And I'm sure there will probably be more. But if you're interested in looking him up, he's federal judge John Bates. I just thought that was interesting that he didn't want to do that. Not a whole lot of information on there. We're winning the fight on that. Let's see. I don't know how to tag you, CC, but yes, agreed. Many Trumps. Yeah, Mary Trump's book was. Oh, okay. I gotcha. Um, Yeah, and like I said, if everybody gets in Discord, we can cross share everything inside of Discord. Other than that, like I said, we're looking pretty good as far as the courts fighting for us, and that would be kind of a one-off right there from this federal judge, John Bates, and I believe he's out of Georgia. We're gonna go for a couple of more minutes. This is so again, let's see, he doesn't like animals and they don't like him. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And yeah, if you don't like animals, I don't have a whole lot of time for you. I'm a huge animal lover. So all right. Let's see. So like I said, these are designed to be just around 30 minutes or whatever, and we lost a little time trying to get set up and everything. But I appreciate everybody being here. And again, we can circle back on TikTok shortly and have conversations about this. Um, so I want to implement a book club, right? So a virtual book club. You can get an electronic copy or whatever the case may be, and then probably do a live on Substack or maybe even Clapper. We could really do that anywhere. But I'm trying to narrow down like what book that I would like to do. But so CC, I think you probably heard me talk about Timothy Snyder because you've been in many of my lives. But I want to play a clip from Timothy Snyder here. He's wrote several books. I have two of them, On Tyranny, On Freedom. That's this book right here. It's a small little book. It's a quick read. It's not even wider than my finger. Uh, Again, you can read this book in about an hour. The other cool thing is he breaks down all these lessons on YouTube, and I want to take about another 10 minutes and just listen to some of the things he says about chapter 10 on believe and truth. So one of the big things and as much as I love talking about policy and everything that's going on in the world with Donald Trump, I really like to circle back to, um, why does MAGA do what they do uh, over and over? It's like the definition of insanity in terms of how they vote. Uh, Tyranny, fascism, and all that kind of stuff. But one of the big things is disinformation and misinformation. Uh, and we all know that ever since Donald Trump, I think it started when Donald Trump started the birther movement in 2011 when Barack Obama was running for president. That's my personal belief. But even more so after he came out and just said fake news, um, that essentially that gave MAGA a reason not to believe anything. And Timothy Snyder touches on this in chapter 10. It's on tyranny, chapter 10, believe in truth. I'm going to play this clip. It's about 10 minutes long, but it's definitely worth listening to. So we're going to go ahead and start.
Which is believe in truth. Believe in truth. To abandon facts is to abandon freedom. If nothing is true, then no one can criticize power because there is no basis upon which to do so. If nothing is true, then all is spectacle. The biggest wallet pays for the most blinding lights. One of the things I liked about this lesson was that it was both classical and postmodern at the same time. This problem of truth and spectacle was one of the arguments that Greek philosophers made skeptically about democracy, that this is simply what would always happen. Wealth would be unequal. The people who had lots of wealth would create spectacle. They would make voting meaningless. But it also corresponded to the postmodern. In Russia and in plenty of other countries as well, we see an extreme case where you have this political philosophy of total nihilism. Nothing is true. And once nothing is true, then political power becomes entertainment power, or vice versa. The ability to entertain then becomes political power. If nothing is true, then whoever draws our attention is the one who has power. And if nothing is true, we don't really have any way to resist because we can't really create, or most of us can't create counter spectacles. If we want to resist, we have to say, you have done X, Y, or Z. The world is A, B, or C. When we deny ourselves that ability by denying that anything is true, we just slip and slide along. There's no way that we can have any purchase on the world if we give up on the idea of truth. So that's one of the reasons I like this lesson. I mean, another reason why I like this lesson is that it's turned out, I wish it hadn't, but it's turned out to be so relevant to the events of the last 5 years. One of the things which has come out in the last 5 years, or one of the things which has happened, has been this debate about free speech. And I just want to mention, in connection with this believe in truth business, that believing in truth has to do with asserting a value, that some things are actually true. I mean, we may never get to truth, but there's a horizon of truth, and that we should be pursuing it, and that hunt is valuable. That hunt for truth is virtuous. I'm saying this because in the origins of the argument for freedom of speech, this hunt is essential. This difficult hunt for truth is essential. And truth is elusive, but it's also hidden from us, right, by power. So the strongest argument for free speech is that free speech is about speaking truth to power, right? Free speech is about exercising the double virtue of looking for the truth and saying it, right? Free speech. So sure, I mean, I will fight to the death to protect your right to repeat, the idiotic internet meme that you just learned last night. But that's not the point of free speech. And when you repeat the idiotic internet meme that you just learned last night, don't think that you are taking part in the great, transcendent history of free speech. You're not. The great transcendent history of free speech is about hunting hard for truth and speaking it to power, right? Which is why it's a perversion of those values when what we have to do, as we have had to do under the Trump administration, is to listen to lies from power, right? If what free speech is about is speaking truth to power, then lies coming down from power, right? That's sure, they're protected by free speech. They're protected by the First Amendment, but they're the opposite of the virtue, which is at the heart of free speech. And in this administration, as I think it's fair to say, at no other time were we bombarded with consistency, with frequency by so many lies, continuous lying, which was corrosive. Which did push Americans further in the direction of thinking that, well, nothing's really true, they're only opinions. And of course, if nothing's really true and they're only opinions, then we're disempowering ourselves. I've already said that. But we're also slowly preparing the way for what happened towards the end of the Trump administration, which is a big lie. Right? Big lies function where there isn't much resistance, where other truths have already gotten out of the way, where the belief in truth has gotten out of the way. And then, and this comes from Hitler, whether we like it or not, this comes from Hitler. This opened the space to tell a lie which is so big that no one can doubt it. Hitler explains this logic in Mein Kampf. I'm sorry, that's just where it comes from. I mean, you may not like to have things juxtaposed this way, but there's only one history. Hitler in Mein Kampf explains that telling a big lie is successful because people won't believe that you would tell a lie that was that big, right? So for example, you lose a presidential election by, let's say 7 million votes, and you say, nevertheless, that you won a historic landslide victory. That is a big lie, right? Because a lot of people are simply not going to believe that you could tell a lie which was that big. But big lies are big not just because they're distant from reality. Big lies have a social and political force. The thing about a big lie is that because it's not true and because it's big, if you commit yourself to it, that means you're committing yourself to belonging to the leader who told it and to the group who also believes it, right? You're committing yourself in effect to a conspiracy theory. It has to be a conspiracy theory because the lie which is told is against all kinds of evidence which is actually out there in the world. And so therefore you must generate a conspiracy which is big enough and powerful enough to have produced all of this evidence which works against your belief. So a big lie has to lead to faith in a leader, right, who is the source of the lie. But it also has to lead to conspiracy theories. And it has to lead to a politics of us and them, because you're committed to this thing, right? You're committed to this story. And so therefore the people who are not committed to it, who don't accept this incredibly important thing that you believe, they must be the enemy. Not just your fellow citizens, but the enemy, right? And a big lie ultimately, and this is something which the communist dissidents argued in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, the last century, a big lie ultimately has to lead to violence because you're not going to be able to defend it finally in any other way. And as I've said in some of these other little videos,
So that's the crux of this particular argument right here. Is essentially what he's saying is that Donald Trump has so to back up. So Donald Trump cleared the path to say that like you can't believe in anything no matter what. We're just not the people. If you follow me, we're not going to believe in anything anybody else says, right? So he's already cleared the path to make way for future lies and then the big lie. So and on tyranny, and I'll tell you if you and most people know this already, but in chapter 10 here, he didn't read the whole thing. He mostly just talked about it. So he says in 2017, the American president averaged 6 lies a day. The next year it was 16. The following year, 22. In 2020, he told an average on average about 27 lies a day. This figure is so high that it makes the correct assertion seem like unintended oversights on the path toward total fiction. Then came the big lie about an election creating a fictional counterpart. And Timothy Snyder has gone on to say in other books and lives that essentially Donald Trump lives in a fictional world, and so does MAGA. And that the reason we got here today is because he cleared that path to say, We don't believe anything unless I say it." He spins narratives. He creates false counter spectacles, like Timothy Snyder said. That's why, if you've ever been in my lives, it's so hard to debate MAGA because they don't believe. I've even posted videos of Donald Trump saying the things himself, and they'll say that the videos are doctored. That's how crazy this shit is. But more importantly, that all these little lies that led up to the big one, which was the lie about the election. That's the big one. And then what he had said, how he talked about Mustache Man saying in Mein Kampf that essentially it has to lead to violence, which was then January 6th. So these parallels, and there's the same parallels exist in 1930s, 40s Germany as they do today with the Trump administration, dating all the way back to I would say starting at 16, but even more so prior to that. And I always say that the MAGA red hats today are the brown shirts of 1930s Germany of old when they were wearing the armbands, and you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, exactly. And if you've ever watched Circle of Evil on Netflix, it's a documentary about um, schmaltzy Germany, and they get into all that. But this right here from Timothy Snyder was super telling. Uh, so again, I think this is probably the book that I would like to start with. Right here, it's pretty cheap. I think it's like $15. So if everybody, and you can get a digital copy of it online as well. But if you're more interested and you don't have access to get a book out right now or whatever, you can go and listen to On Tyranny 20 lessons on YouTube. And he breaks down every chapter like he just did, just to get some background on there. Again, I think it's important to educate ourselves on. It just seems like history always repeats itself, and it usually comes in, I think, in about like 40 or 80 year cycles. And we're there again. Tanya Toe, what's up? What's up, Tanya? Um, so yeah, so let's see, that's about 43 minutes right now. And I appreciate everybody coming here. So I'm gonna give you a quick book rundown. On Tyranny is great, right? These are recommended readings, okay? Attack from Within by Barbara McQuaid. This one is about misinformation and disinformation. Says disinformation is the deliberate spreading of lies disguised as truth, whether from opportunists on the far right, misinformed social media influence, or others, is polarizing American society more than ever before. And again, we just covered that. Um, these are like two books to start with right there, and I've got several more that we can talk about at other times. So, so that was kind of a quick wrap up on some of the new stuff or whatever. Again, this is the first time I've ever done hosted like a podcast, so it's probably a little bit rough, but I appreciate you guys. And obviously, I need to work on my lighting here too, so I have to do something about that. And again, I'm experimenting with uh, this software called Streamlabs, where I can show video right here, my logo up here, and then me in the box right here. So, and then I've got the chat over here. So all new to me. I'm a Gen Xer, so sometimes technological advances. Uh, yeah. Hey, check it out. Cootery. Look at that. Yes. Yep. I've got that. And I've got, where the other, let's see. This is another Jason Stanley right here. Another one by Jason Stanley, Erasing History. This is another good one right here. All right, folks. I appreciate you tuning in today for Gunny Speaks Out, my first podcast ever. I promise it will get better and more and probably more interesting, especially if you start reading some of these books. I am telling you, when you crack these books, you start looking at all these things. You're like, holy shit, I didn't even know. You're like, then you really want to dive in. You really want to dive in and get to know more about it. The big thing for me is the misinformation one. Elder millennial born in 1984. Thanks for the book, Rex. You're quite welcome. So, all right. Well, that is it for now. I've got 12:47 right now. Um, I probably need about a 30-minute break, and then I can just switch over and just do a regular TikTok live. Maybe we get some debaters, because then what I want to do is I'm going to post this, um, and then I also need to do a live so we can have debates and do cut some video out for that for my YouTube as well. So thank you everybody for participating. I was glad I was able to share this information with you. Tell your friends if anybody else is interested and they're not on here following me already to come over to why are all the black kids sitting together? Oh, okay, that's good. And if everybody's in my I have a book recommendations list in my Discord. So key is getting in the Discord so we can cross share books that we all like for recommended reading.